What's up, my little grimlets? Today I'm going to make you a little knowledge video about spark plugs. So we're going to cover how to change a spark plug, what your old spark plug can tell you about what's possibly going on inside the engine, new spark plugs. There's a trillion options. I'm going to go over what I use, what you could possibly use, however you want to do that. Proper gapping of a spark plug. This stuff may be pretty basic to most, but for some of you who've never done this or who are wanting to learn, hopefully you learned something. Gonna go over what happens if you gap it too much, if you don't gap it enough, what it can lead to, what kind of problems it can create. Basically how your ignition system works from the distributor through a spark plug. So, the life of old Sparky. So first things first, you're going to want to find your spark plug tool. Pretty much any socket of the right size will work. Specialty sockets for spark plugs have stuff inside them so that you can hopefully not break them taking them out. So I'm going to throw that on there, give it a little twist, and back this thing on out. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and take all of these out. That would be kind of boring to watch. So, the basics of your spark plug. These actually look almost brand new. So, you can see here at the top, this little metal piece. This is actually what you're gapping. You're not actually gapping, come on, focus, man, the electrode in the middle. That doesn't move. You're moving this piece around that center piece. So this metal piece is obviously the threaded portion. Down here, you've got the porcelain. These are Delcos that go in there. These are the factory option spark plugs. So on the inside of this, there's more porcelain. So what this does is actually acts like a conductor for your electrical spark. So what your spark is, on older cars, you'll have what's called a distributor. This is an HEI distributor. That means it doesn't have an external coil. So what this does, essentially, you've got 8 posts, one for each of your cylinders here. This takes your 12-volt battery and amplifies this to an extensive amount. So basically, you're starting with a 12-volt battery. This is jumping that all the way up to between 35,000 and 50,000 volts, depending on the application that you're running. So it sends all that power, that electrical current, through these spark plug wires, which are usually silicone to help insulate them. And then they have a metal core on the inside, and your spark plug snaps into the boot, and then everything's insulated, and it sends that shock across here. So like I said, that's a Delco plug coming out of there. If all else fails, always go back to a stock. For your GMs, it's usually Delco. Motorcraft for Fords. A lot of your imports use like Denzos. I know my old Nissan used to use Denzos. I always go back to a factory plug unless I can find the aftermarket option in an NGK. It's just perfect personal preference. I like the NGK plugs personally. They just seem to perform a little better. So same basic concept. And as you can see, you've got same electrode, everything in there. So for gapping a spark plug, you can go to any local parts store and you can find one of these gapping tools. Essentially, this thing, narrow at the bottom and just slightly opens up as you go around, and it's got your readings as you go around for what width you need to open this up to. I have no clue what runs a 0.70, but So on the old Chevy, it runs a 0.35. So all you have to do, this is going to be a pain in the butt, here is slide your spark plug in here. It's going to be hard to show you this, especially when I'm dropping crap. Alright, let's try it this way. So you're going to take your spark plug, and what you're going to do is you're going to slide it in at the bottom in the narrowest portion. And then you're going to slowly slide this up to, this is supposed to be gapped at a 0.035 gap. So you slide it up along that ridge till you get to that point, and you want it to be snug. So if it is too far open and it's not snug when you get to that point, what you got to do is tap on this guy. I usually just tap it on a bench. People are probably going to say that's dumb, shouldn't do that, but that's how I was taught to do it. So you slide it along until it is firm. Right at that point, slide it out. That way you know you've got this gapped right. And I know some of you might be like, well, what does that matter? So I'm going to tell you why this matters. So, don't gap these. Let's say you gap it too wide. Let's say you go to like a 0.45. The motor's still going to run, more than likely. But if you go too wide of a gap, what you're going to run into is it's going to be harder to start. You're going to get reduced fuel economy. You're going to get reduced power. So essentially when that electricity is trying to pass, what you're doing is creating an arc between that center post and that top piece. So the manufacturer of the vehicle has designed that to run at a certain gap, obviously. If you go too wide, essentially you need more voltage to be able to jump across there. So you're going to have a weaker overall spark if that gap is too wide, which means that if you don't have a computer-controlled car like modern cars do, where they all run coil packs to each individual cylinder and they can adjust through a computer each individual cylinder, basically what you're going to have is a misfire because it doesn't have enough arced power jumping across there in order to burn off all the air and fuel that is inside that cylinder. So on the flip side of that, if you don't gap it enough and that gap is too small, you can start getting what's called like spark knocking. So essentially that all that power is jumping across there so fast that you're getting what's called pre-detonation. So it's essentially trying to blow all of that up in too short of a time span. You can start getting pinging noises. You're going to get super rough idle. You could get misfires. You're going to burn up that electrode in the middle, and essentially you're just going to be wasting your money because you're going to have to replace spark plugs again even sooner. I go with NGK plugs personally because they're a little bit better of a quality, I think. I used to daily drive the Nova for, I don't know, 5-6 years. It was my daily through the snow, through everything when I was in high school. And on average, these older motors burn through some spark plugs when you're just daily driving them and things of that nature. And it's not hopped up. It's a little 307 2-speed power glide. It is absolutely, it's a turd. In today's world, it's a boat anchor. It's garbage. It's all numbers matching, and I'm leaving it that way for now. Probably not forever, but for now. And I was changing out spark plugs, AC Delcos, once a year, if not more, just because of the older design. Then I switched to an HEI distributor, which helped immensely. It gives you a better spark overall, more control, and they started to last a little longer, but I usually still changed them at about a year. So when you pull your old spark plugs, if you see a whole bunch of just black crap built up on them, that's carbon. And you can sometimes get these things so hot that it'll crack the porcelain in the middle. So there's little things you need to look at. You can get oil on these plugs. Could be from a valve cover leaking into there, which can cause issues with, if that oil seeps down into the cylinder there. You can start blowing smoke out. You can start having, misfire issues, things of that nature. You always want to inspect your spark plugs and your wires. So obviously we have no wires on this right now. We're putting all new wires on it. But you want to make sure that you don't have any broken parts in there. And I can tell you this much. On the Nova one day, I had a misfire. And I started just grabbing wires. I narrowed it down to one side of the motor, obviously. And I started checking. The best time to check these, honestly, if you think you have a wire that's gone bad, is at night. Turn it on, open the hood, you're going to see it arcing off somewhere. Well, I did this in the middle of the day like an idiot and just started running my hand up the spark plug cable or wire, and I can tell you, it gives you a nice little shock. I've also shocked myself with a coil, an actual old style coil, and that sucks as well, because that's where you're transferring that 12 volts into 30,000 plus volts. So when it arcs across there, you'll know when you touch it. So basically I'm going to go through, since I have nothing on the motor right now, it's pretty easy. I'm going to pull all these out, replace new, put our new valve or spark plug wires on there. I have to go back through and retighten down all these valves. We were going to do a cam swap on this thing, but we opted not to after we had already started loosening valves and stuff, so we created a bigger problem for ourselves, because eventually this is probably going to get a crate motor, and then we don't really have to worry about any of that crap, so we'll just get the cam and stuff when we do all that. So essentially your motor, in case you don't know, works like a giant vacuum pump. So you've got an exhaust side and you have an intake side. So this intake runner lines up with this intake valve. So your cam is in the block as it's spinning, and your cylinder is going up and down in there. When it is going down, it opens up your intake valve and sucks in the air and the fuel. And then as it comes up the block and gets to this, your exhaust valve will open after the spark plug detonates, which is why your spark plug is located down here. So what it's doing is it's compressing all that gas and air into its little spot at the top of that piston, and then it's igniting your spark plug, it's burning all that off, it's causing that explosion, which is creating your power, and then your exhaust opens up to let excess gases, the unburnt and burnt up fuel and everything, get out of the motor. Which is why it's to maintain your ignition system. Spark plug wires, your distributor, newer cars, coil packs, things of that nature. Just as a bare necessity, your motor needs air, fuel, and spark to run. So if you're not keeping up on spark plug wires and changes, I know on newer cars, some of those are like 100,000 miles. I've never in my life let a spark plug go 100,000 miles. Personal preference. I like to nip things in the bud before they cause a problem. So totally up to you. Hopefully this taught you something. If it didn't, then you probably didn't need to watch this video anyway, but I appreciate if you did. So we're gonna have some more little, I guess, tech tip style videos. Just general crap. If you found any of this useful or found me super annoying or whatever the case may be, give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a big FU, leave me a comment. I mean, not a soft guy, so your comments aren't going to hurt my feelings. Tell me what if I gave you wrong information, let me know. I don't know everything. I'll be the first to tell you that. I know a little bit about a bunch of stuff. That's about it. That's the extent of my life knowledge. I can do a whole bunch of things decent. I'm not the greatest at anything. So I'm always ears. Let me know. Let me know if you like what you're seeing. Man, live every day the best you can. Live it like there's no tomorrow. Little things like this seem like nothing. You know, a lot of people nowadays don't even know how to change a spark plug. A lot of people don't even know what a spark plug is. So hopefully this helps somebody. If you're new, just starting to try to get into cars, man, more power to you. I used to be in the mechanic world. I saw the writing on the wall when Priuses first came out, and I jumped out of there. I don't want to touch anything that's ran by big orange wires that are going to shock and kill you. Battery packs that are going to catch on fire, any of that kind of stuff. So until someone forces me to buy one, you're never going to see one in my fleet of cars. That's personal, not political. Don't get it twisted. So, yeah, I hope everybody has a great day. Reach out to your loved ones. Give them a hug, give them a high five, give them a whatever. Tell them you love them. Sometimes you got to tell them you hate them, but it's all good. Until the next one, which I'm actually going to start getting all my crap together for my pack. And I might make a little video about, for right now, the basic stuff that's going in the pack. I got to get all that stuff together. But I'm off the next few days, so I'm going to try to get some stuff done. Make you guys some more videos. I know I said I was going to try to do one every week, but life, it gets in the way. So, hope you guys are having a great weekend. Get at me, Matt Pro. If you guys are looking for someone who is doing an awesome build on a classic Ford truck, I've watched his content. The dude's got an awesome build going on. Just check him out. My friend Clay, Farmer Clay, out in Montana. Awesome dude. I've known him forever. Very ingenuitive. Real cool guy, building a bunch of farming equipment, showing off farming stuff. It's interesting. Even if you're not into that, it gives you a look into, how hard things can be for farmers who are making stuff work. He's a 30-something-year-old guy who bought a farm from the family and is taking it over, and he's doing everything in his power to make it succeed. And I love you, brother, and I will talk at you later.